This recording we're going to talk about Java lists and Java arrays. More Java arrays, but really we're going to talk pretty much about helper methods on those arrays because the Java arrays are very similar to JavaScript arrays. So let's create a new project. Let's delete this one first. Here we go. Let's create a project. Java project. Give me a main. And I'll call it arrays. So as you saw in the learning objectives, the lesson, that arrays are very similar to JavaScript. Two differences is that they're typed, meaning once you make an array a string, it only can put strings in it, and it's a fixed length, doesn't grow dynamically. Arrays are old school before Java 5. Once we got Java 5, we got lists and array lists with generic so that we create a list that dynamically grows and we can call methods on it. These arrays, we don't really code much anymore except for when we call an API that is still like an old school API that's given us back arrays. For example, you might ask the file system to give you the files in a directory, and you might get back an array of files. So I'm going to put some code in here, and it's more about the helper classes than it is about arrays themselves. I'm going to comment out stuff that we're going to get to later. All right, so I want to create a list of integers. And I could new up an array list and then add them one at a time, but this is how I can do it on one line. And I'm using this arrays class. And the arrays class, arrays, is a class containing various methods for manipulating arrays, such as sorting and searching. All right, so this has got a bunch of helper methods in it. And one of the first ones we see is as a list. So you pass it an array, and it'll turn it into a list. And that's what this does here. And let's sys out the array. Oh, if you're wondering how I'm commenting and uncommenting blocks like this, what you do is you highlight these two lines, or what number of lines. You hold the command key and you hit the key that has the question mark and the forward slash, and that'll toggle the comment on or off. Okay, so here we go. Let's run this, and we should create a list of integers. Hey, we did. And this next line says, what is, you're creating a list of integers, but what this list of integers, this number list, this variable, is a list of integers, and that's the interface list. What is the actual concrete class? And one would think it's an array list, but this is what you do. You take your variable right here, and you call get class, get name on it, and that'll tell you what the real class is that is backing it, that is. So let's run this. And the number list is really, an array list, not a surprise. All right, now this one is very convoluted. Let's take the list and turn it into an array. And you call the toArray method on the list. But what you got to do is you got to pass it an array as an argument, and it's going to return you a reference to an array. So what I did here on line 14 is I created an array that's the correct size, that will hold the list. You can see here I did I created an array right here. What I got to do right here, in between these brackets, right here where XXX is is I got to put in the size that I want this array to be. And whoa, just undo. And so what I do is I say, hey, list, how big are you? And I create an array of that size. I pass it as a parameter to the toArray method. And what the toArray method does says, hey, you're giving me an array. If it's big enough, I'm going to put the list in there. If it's not big enough, I'm going to create a new one. But either way, I'm going to pass you back a reference to an array. Yes, it's convoluted. Fortunately, we don't have to do this too often, but now you know. All right, so now this one's very nice, this next method. This arrays toString. Arrays toString, and we're going to pass it this integer array, and it's going to print it out. And you'll see this. I'll show you this in a moment. Let's run this. So the array as list is that. Under the covers, it's really an array list. And now it's an array, and it's got the same order as the original list. So you're going to see this in IntelliJ. If I create a new class, call it foo. And in foo, I do like private Boolean array flags. Okay, let's do that. And now I generated toString, and you'll see that toString uses array toString. Watch this. Generate toString. And see how the toString uses this arrays toString, and it passes it the Boolean array? That's exactly what we did here. We called arrays toString. In this case, we passed it the integer array, and it'll print it out. Okay. Next and last, let's do two things. Let's call arrays.sort method and pass it the integer array, and it should sort it. And then let's print it out again. Let's run this code. And there it is. Arrays after sorting is a sorted integer array. So again, this wasn't much about actual arrays in Java because they're very similar to arrays in JavaScript. This is kind of more about how to turn a list into an array and an array into a list and some of the helper methods around it.